Welcome to the Arena Decklist Podcast. I'm Gary Thompson, joined by Brian Gottlieb, and we got some bad news. I believe this is going to be reflected in the title, but this is Brian's final episode, and I want to stress that he is going to come back at some point. I'm going to make him, but this is going to be the final episode for him as a recurring member of the cast, I suppose.
As a fixture on the Arena Decklist Podcast. Yes, this is a conclusion to my time. I am sad. I mean, there's not even any mixed feelings. I'm just sad. It's unfortunate, but I do think it's the right move for the podcast. You all deserve someone. No, listen though. Listen though. You everyone look.
Fuck you.
Here's the dichotomy. I am not trying to downplay my contributions. I know I contribute something, but there's also a lot of people who want to listen to this podcast for magic information, for strategy, for ways to better perform at their next event. I can't provide that anymore. I recognize that. I'm too busy with other things, and frankly, like, my interest isn't really there. And you deserve someone who can provide that. So that is step one. The other side of that is I know there's a lot of people who just like coming, listening to us, hanging out with us, feeling like they're part of our team, and they are very much part of our team. And I feel like I can pop in periodically and still contribute that. So I don't think there's going to be a loss to any group besides the group that really enjoys hearing me talk specifically about Magic. And I have such a hard time fathoming that person. Like, maybe from a design standpoint, sure, but in terms of like, you should play this deck, like, nobody's listening to me anymore, and you shouldn't be. Good decision. We'll bring in someone who is worth listening to. I think that's the correct call.
So A, I disagree with that. But B, also, like, this podcast has evolved over time. And I think that is what any form of content should be doing. Right.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know, the listener base will evolve around that. Like, we are not monoliths, you know, like our interest or whatever is going to ebb and flow and wane or whatever over time, and I would hope that is understood. And
obviously, in a large sense, it has been, right? Like, we have some of the best people supporting us, surrounding us, people who have continued to listen to us through everything we've gone through, which has now been so much. We've been doing this for such a long time. I think I look, this is, we don't like actually number our episodes anymore, but we do internally. And this is like episode 348 or something like that.
Yeah, but okay, here's the thing is when my editor would send them to me, I this practice stopped a while ago, but like, there was a period where like I would send them to him numbered and he would send them back to me numbered, and his number was always like 20 higher than mine.
Okay, so we're somewhere in the 300s. We can say that with confidence, right?
Yes, we are definitely, like, you know, that internally I have it 348. Given his numbering system, it would probably be about like 360, 370, something like that. So we're well above 350.
Yeah, and I came on in the 30s. I'm
Correct.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, like 32 or 36, something like that.
Pretty incredible stretch of podcasting. Just showing up to do a podcast for that long is like, for people like us, I think it's very impressive. We are the type of people who move quickly. We, you know, don't always self-motivate all that well. We have a tendency to flitter around a bit. And I think we both really committed to this and did something really cool. And I'll always be really happy with that. So it's weird. It's, like I said, it's a sad chapter, but when you look back at it, it's kind of unbelievable how much we managed to do over this period of time. Yeah,
it's a lot. Back to my thing though, because that's what's most important.
Obviously,
on your farewell episode is like, let's talk about me. I think that I don't know if this is like your, you know, rationale or defense mechanism or whatever, but like it is just kind of like bullshit to be like, oh, I'm not the right person for the podcast anymore. Cause like I personally don't give a shit, man. Like,
fair.
Like, you and I work so well together and we can talk about literally anything. Like, generally to some degree, like, yes, Magic is the focus of the content, but the content is the people. And if the people suck, then I'm just not tuning into their stuff, you know? And I think that is true for a lot of people. So people just like you, man. Like, I don't want you to use that as your excuse for leaving because it makes me angry.
Fair enough. I guess there's no accounting for taste, but I do believe the person who will come in my spot will be just as beloved, be just as ready to take on the mantle. Do you think that we're not going to reveal the replacement, I'm assuming.
No.
Yeah. But do you think that the person who is going to be taking my place is better known than I was when I came on the show?
That's hard to say.
I think the answer is yes. But I also think that depends on who the audience is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I think for our current audience, it's basically a tie. I think that like they probably didn't know who you were. They're not going to know who this person is. And I kind of like that. I kind of dig that, honestly.
It's cool. I mean, honestly, looking back on it, it was a lot of, as soon as I settled into the role and understood that like there were no presuppositions and I could just be myself, it was a lot of freedom to just be able to, lean into who I am and not have to like justify my placement or
no, be yourself. That's all I ask.
Yeah, that's the biggest advice I could give to new person is just like don't stress about it and be who you are, and you're gonna do a great job for who you are, not because of you're trying to offer something specific.
Right. The reason I wanted you specifically was because of who you are. So I certainly don't want you to come in here and change that. And I believe I've said as much to this person as well.
Good. I think
whether or not that has actually been hammered home yet.
Well, it's hard. I'll tell you, it's hard. Like you play tricks on yourself. You set these mental expectations that you think people have for you, and it does take a while to settle into that position. And I think it'll probably take this person some time to settle into that position, but they will do so, and the podcast will be better for it.
Yeah. So I don't know, a little bit of a preview, I guess. This person is playing a bunch of Magic right now.
Seems like a good thing for a Magic podcaster to do.
So, well, yeah, but our name has the word arena in it. We don't talk about arena at all. So none of this makes any sense.
That's
right?
Fair. It's all Calvin ball.
Yeah, BT dubs. I'm going to rebrand. I've been like too lazy to make a logo or commission a logo. So I might just keep publishing it under the same logo, but like different title.
Okay. I like that. I think it's time. We had a very clear vision, and I would say, I think for a moment, a successful vision. I think we made a good decision in the moment.
Yeah.
But circumstances have changed dramatically, I would say.
Yeah. And it was just stuff that was out of our control for the most part, in a lot of different ways. And it's just like comically soul crushingly funny to me how much it did not work out.
Yeah.
And I can't really deal with that anymore. It has to change. So
I respect that. And I understand that. While we're doing the reflective thing, I think I'm just like a very reflective person in general. Like I tend to think back about things, and I like to kind of neatly anthologize things and put an order to things. And I was just thinking about the history and things we did, things we attempted to do, and I kind of found myself drawn to the negative a little bit and thinking about the biggest mistakes we made along the way.
Shit.
And
so whenever someone's like, oh yeah, I'm like a reflective person or whatever, like how much do you harp on like regrets in general, or like how much do you think about that?
It depends. It really depends. Like it's a very mood-based thing. Like I think in general, broadly speaking, my life has worked out extremely well. So the regrets that I do have are often very, very small ones. Like a lot of times they're just like, I wish I handled this situation better, or I treated this person differently. That's the one that kind of comes up the most, more than like, oh, I should have, I don't know, been a doctor or something ludicrous like that. So it really does depend. And I would say the moments where I take stock and just be like, wow, I did a lot of things right, are much rarer than the moments I'm doing the opposite.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, continue. The things that we blew. Let's
Yeah,
talk about those.
yeah. And man, it's so hard. I don't want to absolve ourselves of anything that we did wrong, because certainly we made missteps along the way, but like, it just felt like so much of the stuff that we envisioned and wanted to do got taken away from us out of our control. Like, really, a lot of it was like pandemic era, but also, MPL restructuring the entirety of Magic.
The restructuring was very bad.
Yeah.
Because
That was the one that like just most out of our control, right? There was just, we tried so hard to engage with it on its terms,
and it was it happened like almost overnight too.
Yeah,
which was, kind of like an extra dagger. Didn't really change things too much, but it's just like we were doing well, and I wanted to put a lot of that money to use, and there were a lot of things that I wanted to do with that money under the structure of old organized play.
Yeah.
And then with MPL, just so many people were just like kind of off it, it's like, because what are you grinding for? Like the silver mage no longer has anything to aspire to, right?
Yeah. And I think too, like in that moment, we did adapt, and we tried to find ways to engage with the new stuff too. Like we were very much, it's weird to say now, but I remember being a pretty vocal supporter of both like arena organized play and the MPL when it started off. Like it seemed like the right thing, and I kind of bought into it. And I think we, for a period, did our best to succeed under those systems. It's just when the realization sets in, like, oh, this is actually a big joke, completely mismanaged,
right?
A field full of hucksters, then you're like, well, now I'm screwed. Like, now I've just committed to this thing that I saw as our future, and like, what is the second future from this point? Really, really odd time. But in retrospect, the only thing I wish I did differently in terms of like that big paradigm shift was actually just ask more questions and like be more critical and have less belief. Like, it's weird to say because I know now I can come off as like a little sardonic and just testy. But
Bro, you were one of the people I talked to, one of the two people I talked to about my MPL contract. And I laid out all the reasons why it was horseshit.
Yep.
So what do you mean? Like, I don't know. Like, in my mind, you were kind of like right there with me as far as like, this isn't going to work.
I think that I should have said as much publicly.
Word. Okay.
I think I publicly bought into too much. Like, there were a lot of warning signs behind the scenes, and I just kind of downplayed them in the public facing discussion.
Yeah.
In part because of necessity. Like, they just weren't things that we could talk about.
No,
and there's still plenty of things we will not talk about from that era, but
we just should, man.
Maybe we should. And that's more for, I'm out the door. I can talk about whatever the hell I want. That's more for you, or I'm still not sure if we should be talking about them.
I don't know. What are they going to do to me?
I don't know.
I'm already 86th, from working with Wizards or anyone Wizards affiliated. Like, I very rarely, play in tournaments. I was in Baltimore last weekend. I am going to Cincinnati. But you're
like a grinder now. You're an SCG Tour grinder at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I played all of 2 rounds in Baltimore. Are you proud of me? I played more fun pickup games with Jake than I did in tournaments.
Okay.
But like, what are they gonna do? They gonna ban me? That's not gonna work well. It's not gonna look great for them.
Yeah, it's also not gonna accomplish all that much, honestly. I'll leave that decision with you. You always get to decide what you want to talk about.
What's the statute of limitations on like NDA type of stuff?
I'm not answering legal questions on the podcast. I'm not going to tell you.
Not as my lawyer, but just, your best guess. I will not take this as legal advice.
Yeah, probably too long.
Yeah, that'd be my guess too. That's a damn shame.
Someday.
Anyway, the problem with all of that is that I'm under contract. I have, talk to you about some stuff, and that it like I'm under contract, so it's not really your place to then reveal things of that nature or whatever. But there was enough public facing stuff that we could have taken issue with, and I did. And I honestly, like, when I left the MPL, like, I don't know, I don't remember you disagreeing with any of the stuff that I said or did. So
No, that is true.
I'm trying to defend your actions here, but like, yeah, maybe in random Twitter discussions, you were like, hey, look at the bright side. Maybe this won't be a shit show.
I think I probably did what I had to do, and then I guess I just kind of wish like I torched myself for the benefit of other people is what it comes down to. But that doesn't lead me to the point I'm at now, probably, and I don't know. I don't know what happens in that world. So again, this is why regrets are just kind of wholesale not worth it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you say like, oh, I didn't do that, and therefore I'm in a reasonable place now, whereas it might not be the case. But like, I think in the eyes of the public, it's sort of binary, and I think that public opinion would be that both of us did torch ourselves, and I think that James holds that regard or like that opinion, and he seems to like us both well enough. So
that is true.
That's true. Yeah, maybe you could have done it a little bit faster and looser, and maybe that sways public opinion into the negative. I don't know, but I feel like people already think that I did, certainly, and maybe you too, but maybe that's like guilt by association.
Yeah, I that's what it comes down to. Is I think I did get some of that guilt, but a lot of it was just by virtue of your actions, and very little through my own. And I wasn't in the same position as you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, I like it. Look, if I didn't support you, I would have openly said as much, but I always supported everything you did, and I was very willing to take on that guilt by association.
And that's because I was right,
mm-hmm.
Not because we're friends, I hope.
No, I agree. I mean, I've certainly told you where I thought you were wrong in the past, right? So that's good evidence that if you were wrong in this situation, I probably would have told you as much.
That might be true, but I don't remember any of those instances ever occurring.
Okay.
Do you have an example?
Last week when you rolled up to Baltimore with the deck that was clearly being preyed upon by the larger format was one. It just comes to mind.
Yeah, but I never said like, oh, this is the best deck to
That's true. You didn't
win
argue.
The tournament. That was not my goal.
Argue.
Dude, I played 2 rounds. I have a laundry list of things that I learned. Like
that's good. That's all you can ask for, right?
When I tell people that like leagues are too long, that is the reason I don't want to engage with them, because by round 3, I've certainly learned everything. Like, they just don't believe me.
No, I believe you. I certainly believe that. I have dropped many a league at 1-0, 2-0. Like, it just, I've learned what I need to learn. I have to go do something else.
Yeah. Usually it's like, I want to join another league now and like, change 10 cards in my deck or whatever.
Sure. Yep. But that happens as well.
Yeah, it's just so funny to me where, yeah, I wanted to basically test for Cincy, and now I think I basically know like everything I need to know about this deck. And
so now you will win in Cincinnati. Is that the prediction?
Assuming that the metagame shifts away from all the artifact hate, then yeah, then this.
What did you think about the legacy metagame in general? That's interesting to me. I mean, we didn't set out with the goal to really even talk about any Magic on this podcast, but we could check in. Like, this is about the level of interest in Magic I have right now. I want to know what the legacy metagame was like at this tournament. So
if I wanted to check my work, and if you do the math and you loop in all the Delvery decks, it was 18%. Do you remember what number I said?
I don't remember what you said.
I think I said 18% at the high end, but like probably
pretty accurate.
Probably 15%. And then Reanimator was 8%.
Yeah, maybe a little higher than I would have expected.
I think that number was like pretty close to what I said too, but I could be wrong. Someone can check the tapes and let me know. But yeah, I mean it was kind of what I expected, where yes, there are things that are sizable portions of the metagame or whatever, but everyone is still doing something that's like pretty different, like how Blue Red Delver operates pretty differently from like Teamer or from Grixis or whatever. It's like there haven't been any big tournaments to just be like, yo, you're supposed to be playing this list or this version of this deck and nothing else. So stuff's hard to pin down, which is why I wanted something proactive, which is why I was like, 8-cast, I guess. Not that I'm happy with like that specifically as a deck choice or whatever, but like certainly that sort of strategy. So yeah, it was like pretty wide open, pretty weird, pretty much what I expected. And then the deck that won looked super sick, actually.
Yeah, remind me what I know I saw it at some point. Remind me what actually won the event.
It was Cephalid Breakfast, but
that's right. Yep.
But with Urza's Saga and Staff of the Storyteller to combo with the sagas, specifically Saga getting Retro Freighter Foundry to just give you like a bunch of gas. So it's basically like this weird ass mid-range deck that never runs out of cards that has a combo finish.
Yep, seems pretty good. I was a long-time believer in Cephalid Breakfast. This resurgence of this deck has been not something I ever expected to see, but it is very, very cool. One of my first ever SG opens that I did well at was with Cephalid Breakfast.
Yeah, and the Cephalid stuff is there kind of like an afterthought, you know? It's just like the best sort of most compact kill that also plays pretty well with the other stuff, you know?
I ended up on the SCG Tour page just kind of looking for the deck list. I couldn't find it. Obviously, why would you be able to?
Naturally.
But there is a collection of people who they advertise as appearing at the event. And this one person has a monkey on their shoulder. Does this person own a monkey? I need to know more. Mike Sad, I don't know who you are. I'm sure you're a lovely Magic content creator, but I want to know about this monkey. Where did it come from? Do you possess this monkey? Are you a monkey owner? Can I meet the monkey? These are all
just
questions
be
I have for you.
Could just be a random zoo pick or something, you know?
It could be, but it sparks more questions than answers. And I now need to have those questions answered.
Word. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not up to date on the monkey tea, as it were. So I roll into Baltimore, right? And we've been to a few of these events, and we've seen Coalesce apparel booths at like all of these events, right?
Yeah.
And it's never Cedric. It's always
I've seen Cedric a few times. It's usually not Cedric. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Okay. So every single time that I've been at one of these events, it has not been Cedric, and then Cedric was randomly there, and I'm just like, "Yo, that second chair behind your booth, that's mine now." And I just camped out with him for like the entire weekend.
Yeah, that is usually my policy as well. I'll spend some time in the booth, and then people ask me a bunch of questions, and I'm like, I don't know. I have no answers for you. I just sit here.
Yeah. No, anytime customers came up, I just scooted the chair back. I just wanted to make it very clear, like, I do not work here.
That's good.
I had one interaction where I interacted with a customer and had to explain to them how things worked, which is how he ships everything when he gets home.
Yes.
Because it's really expensive to carry a bunch of like stock with you to every event.
You can't. No, I mean, not realistically. It's so much better to do it the way he does it.
Yeah, and the shipping is free, you know, so you don't get to like take it home in your hands or whatever. But this one person was just like, that's not how things normally work. And it's like, yeah, I understand that. But like, do you want to pay $50 for a shirt or do you want to pay $33? You know? It's
so he criticized your business model at the place you didn't work at and just let you know that he wasn't pleased with it.
Like, he wasn't outwardly like hostile or anything, but he was definitely off put and like huffy and walked away, didn't try and buy anything from me. So there's that. But yeah, well, it's just like I get it.
When you got into customer service, Gerald, you should have known that this is the type of stuff that you were going to be facing. So.
I did customer service stuff for like 15 years. So I'm especially since that was like the one and only customer I had to deal with, I think that I was like pretty patient and pretty nice, you know? Obviously it grates on you after a while, but it's like I am pretty good at that stuff when I know that I'm signing up to do it, you know?
That's good. I think I have a similar tact, although I remember by the end of my bartending days, I had no fucking patience whatsoever. Like just actual zero.
Yeah, if you know you're at the end, who cares?
Yeah, I was just completely. I actually remember a time I made a drink for someone, and they complained it wasn't strong enough, loudly, and I told them to go fuck themselves,
Hell
as,
yeah.
as I'm wont to do, and they flashed me a gun, and I was just like, "Look at my life, bro. If this is how it's gonna go, like, fine, go for it."
Yeah,
I just had
you,
no fucks at that point.
you want a murder charge,
Yep,
like that's fine
yep,
because I
no
I
objection.
clearly don't care, you know.
Just go for it. So that's when I knew I probably shouldn't be bartending anymore. When
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, whatever.
I think more bartenders should be like that, honestly. But you know, working for tips, maybe not the best idea to be like that.
You gotta have a blend. You gotta have a blend.
Yeah, and I don't know. There are depends on like what kind of establishment you're into, right? Because if you're in a place that is mostly regulars and there are enough people, you would hope that maybe the regulars realize that like, okay, that person's not going to tip you, so like we have to cover that as a collective.
Yeah. So my spot was like pumping busy nightclub where just no semblance of regulars make
Right.
whatever 1,000 drinks in a night, and it just pure volume. Like you're actually your only limitation on how much money you make is speed, like how quickly you can make a drink.
Okay.
So it completely changes the dynamic where it's just like, do this as quickly as possible, get the next person up. If someone wastes your time, tell them to fuck off and go to the next person. Like that's all you can do, because that's the actual limiter on your money at that point.
Right. You're down $1, but that person was going to cost you like $3 anyway.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
What other mistakes did we make?
Well, a recurring mistake that I make in all aspects of my life that I've always made, and honestly, a mistake that I'm kind of comfortable making, was I gave many people the benefit of the doubt, and just expected good from people. Like I expected some people to, kind of engage with things, negotiations, business arrangements, the same way that you and I would have, openly, in good faith.
Yeah.
Being trustworthy people, and
Yeah. So
that
when,
got to us a few times.
yeah, when you brought up like, oh, a lot of the stuff that stymied us was out of our control, it's like, well, yes and no. Like I never like just chalking everything up to luck, right? Because there is always something that you can do better. And I think
you
that
create your circumstances.
yeah, and I think that we were certainly after those experiences going to get better at it. Just we ran out of opportunities because things had started changing, right?
Yep.
The new car smell on like Magic is an esport soured pretty quickly, and then we no longer had a bunch of those opportunities like knocking on our door. So
yep,
which is fine, because honestly, like a lot of the shit that we could have done, like some of it would have been not
could have went even worse.
Yeah,
could have went even worse for sure. And maybe it, if we had gotten to some of the arrangements we were looking at and had been committed to them, it could have just been an absolute money funnel with the way things went. So
yeah, and I don't know. I think that we did a good job pulling the plug on a lot of that stuff when we did too. So there's that.
For sure. Yeah, I just think like it's just something that comes up for me over and over and over again, and it comes up with like issues like forgiveness, and I just like,
dude, I never forgive.
I know, and it's good. Like I actually kind of envy that, because I want to believe in people. I want to see the best in them. I want to give everyone the chance to treat me as the way I would treat someone else, and you can absolutely get burned by that. I was actually telling this story the other day when I was talking about the process of either lending money or selling something to someone and then being like, oh, I'll pay you in the future. I will never ask for that product, thing, money, whatever it is. I will never ask for it. And
Same.
What I will do instead is I will use that to silently judge you for the rest of our relationship if you take advantage of the fact that I will not ask you to give me the $10 you owe me or whatever like that. It's just like, I'd rather just have that information that is worth the $10 to me than have the $10 in my hand. And
okay.
that extends to a larger number than $10 too. Like it really just goes entirely up the spectrum.
All right, I got to tell you a story involving one Colosso boss, Colosso Fuentes.
Okay.
Do you know Colosso?
By reputation and a very few personal interactions.
Okay. So grinding Magic when you are in your early 20s is an experience, and honestly fewer people should do it. And maybe now things are better in that, like, you don't really have the opportunity to do it. So kind of saving people from themselves by just having not a whole lot of organized play offerings. So pros and cons, I suppose. But at this point, I was, maybe mid to late 20s or something. So like I have a little bit more spending money. I wouldn't say I'm, doing well or anything. But being friends with Colosso, who was like maybe even not even 20 yet, might have still been a teenager, but around that age, and like not having a lot of money, and just the occasional like, yo, can I get $10? Like, I'll pay you back next event or whatever sort of thing would happen, right? And it's fine. I totally did not mind doing that. And then it just came to a point where, like, obviously there are some stories where it's just like, oh, you're staying with Colosso, like, it must be nice that he's got money for hotel rooms, even though he still owes me $20 or whatever, just like a decent amount of people, a handful of people were just like, yeah, Colosso owes me 20, Colosso owes me 30, Colosso owes me 50, etc. Right. So this was just kind of a thing. And he didn't have bad intentions, like he did intend to pay everyone back. Right. But, you're a broke kid. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So it got to a point where he owes me like $30 or something, and I didn't expect him to pay me back in a timely manner, and I also would prefer it if he paid back the other people that were more directly involved in his community before he paid me back. So even if he offered me money, I wouldn't take it, or I would just like take it and go give it to someone else, But the thing that I started to do to accrue value on this debt was I would walk into an event for the first time, like Friday, Saturday. I would beeline for Colosso. I would see him, in the middle of a big group of friends. He's like a sociable, charismatic dude. So he's always talking to people. And I'd be like, where the fuck is my money, Colosso? Just really loud, just like start yelling at him. Be like, dude, what the fuck? It's been 6 months, like, and I would just lay into him. And then he would just be like, dude, I'm sorry, like, I'll pay you, next week or whatever. And then I would walk off, and I would hear the people be like, dude, how much money do you owe him? And Colosso was like, $30.
That's good.
So I would just make a scene and get value, and people were just like, dude, why do you do that? It's so mean. And it's just like, I just don't even want him to pay me back at this point. Like I just want...
you have to get something out of your investment.
Yeah, I just want the equity of being able to yell at him kind of at every tournament. And,
I in many ways, you and I are very similar. I would have probably done the exact same thing. It reminds me of the fact that when my brother was probably like 15, he got very confident in his tennis game and challenged me to a $100 match of tennis.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? I'm not going to play you right now, but I'm going to accept your bet. And at some point in the future, I'm going to challenge you for that $100 game. My brother has never, and I actually mean never, beaten me in a set of tennis. It's not even close. It's not even in the realm of possibility that he can beat me. So what I am doing with this $100 bet that I have saved in my pocket is I am waiting until he is at his lowest, most desperate, and just horrible situations. Everything has gone wrong in his life. He's in the gutter, has nothing left. I'm going to play that $100 match of tennis. I'm going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back because he had the audacity to believe he could challenge me to a $100 match of tennis. And I have kept this in my back pocket now. We have to be talking 17, 18 years. And I'm holding on to this $100 match. The problem is I am getting old and fat. And now I'm starting to get concerned, like, well, if this continues to happen, am I actually going to reach a point where I will not be able to cash in on this bet? I don't think so, though. I feel like the skill gap is just too much,
Dude, I hope that he is secretly training every day and he's just going to whoop your ass.
The gap is so huge. It's so huge.
Maybe it
in
was.
so many ways.
Maybe it was, but you haven't been training.
I'm not sure
I
I
know.
understand.
Oh wow, Siri is participating in this argument now. I also have not been training, but I am
Bro, it's our last episode. Put the watch away.
sorry. I am a naturally talented racket sport player. I'm just good at racket sports. I always have been. I picked them up very quickly. Any sport played with a racket. Badminton, table tennis, actual tennis, pickleball, I pick up very, very quickly and I'm usually very good at. And he's none of those things. So I will destroy him.
Man, how have we never gone to like an arcade together, you know?
Yeah, that's weird. It's weird that that's never happened.
Right? I want to like play you in like some air hockey or whatever, you know? And it's just like, yeah, I've just never been in that situation with you.
Yeah. I can't. It seems odd. I'm trying to piece together all these things we've done, but yeah, I can't remember an arcade experience.
I think we're just old men, right? It was like tournament's done. And it's like, nah, it's
yeah, time for bed.
Betty by time.
We do go to bed pretty early. I'll give us that.
Yeah. I'm kind of having a "Are we the baddies" moments because you're talking about like I'm saving this so that I can just mentally break my brother.
I am the baddie in the situation.
Yeah.
I am willing to accept that. That is the nature of Big Brotherdom, though, is that you have to accept your role as the baddie.
I don't think that's true.
That's what I'm telling myself.
Maybe a hot take. As someone who is a middle child, has had an evil older brother and was very nice to my younger brother. I kind of disagree with that. Yeah.
Why weren't you born first, Gerry? You chose like an idiot, and this is your own fault. You did this to yourself.
Well, if I was born first, then I would not be me, at which point, you know, maybe I was born first and that is simply another me. You know,
multiverse.
Who's to say,
the multiverse theory of the Arena Decklist podcast.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird, right?
It is weird.
Yeah. Like, in case anyone is worried about the well-being of Colosso Fuentes, for the most part, he was in on the joke, you know? Like I said, like he and I were, you know, rooming together and whatnot throughout this entire thing. And it was not the nicest thing I've ever done. But I don't think that he was actually tormented by it or anything.
Different times, bruh. Different times.
Different times. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think I used to really sub to the idea of like, you know, if you're creating net happiness, it is a good thing. Which was like, you know, 5 people are now happier because they had a funny moment, but it was at the expense of this other person. Obviously, I no longer subscribe to that school of theory because it was like, well, I could just do 5-0 and that's way better, right?
Turns out, yeah.
But yeah, are we the baddies, Brian? 20 years ago. Probably.
Still a little bit these days.
Oh,
baddie
man.
with the heart of gold. I think that's my role.
So obviously you're busy with fab stuff and you're going to be spending a lot of time down there and everything.
Yeah, I leave tomorrow.
Yeah.
Headed back down to Auckland.
Are you, I don't know, like all set up for this? I know that you have like your parents watching your house. You have like another place down there. Or do you think that you're going to be like pretty happy with, it's not even like bi-coastal, man. It's like
by world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think I'm going to be really happy. I really like what I'm doing right now. Again, just like my life is this story of ridiculous consequence and good fortune, but one of the things that always sort of held me back from wholesale committing to the idea of being a game designer or, you know, working on a TCG, it's hard for me. It's not to say that I'm not capable of like knowing my role on a team or taking direction. I do think I am capable of those things, but also it's really hard for me if I have a good idea to just be like, well, I'm not paid for this idea. I'm paid for this more basic idea. So I'll just sit on this idea and not get involved in this large picture stuff, in this future of the game stuff, in this organized place, like just bite my tongue and be like, not my job, not my problem. That's not the type of person I am. And the level of involvement I've gotten to take in Flesh and Blood, the amount of trust that James gives me with his creation is just like, it's exactly the situation I wanted to work in. And beyond that, I just love the game. I think we have a lot of fruitful territory to mine. We keep coming up with cool shit to do in the space, and love the team I work with. So it has worked out extremely well. And it's one of those things where obviously the travel is not great. I don't enjoy it, but I am legitimately looking forward to getting into the office on Monday, seeing the team, getting to work on some stuff. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's a good situation to be in. And the buy world stuff is the hardest part of it for sure. And I'm still doing Airbnb this trip down, but the goal is to have something more permanent down there, probably hopefully by the close of this year. And I think that'll make things a little bit better too. It's just like,
yeah,
go from your own space to your own space, and you can customize them the way you want. One of the hardest things that I've run into is just like having a comfortable work setup when I'm there. Like that's a really big deal. I sit in this garbage chair that whoever put together this Airbnb purchased from, I don't know, a dumpster in a lot of cases, it feels like. And then my back is in shambles by the end of a week. And it is, I'm too old for that shit. But once I have my own setup, I think that's going to improve things quite a bit. So.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Like I could do that sort of stuff, like work while traveling, and it was fine in small doses. It's like, oh, look at me making the best of my situation, but like, thank God I get to get out of this situation.
Yep.
And back to a place with like, a real chair and 2 monitors or whatever.
Yep. Very, very important. I bought like a travel monitor this go around, which is an interesting piece of technology that I never really considered before.
We should have talked about that.
Is it not going to work in my favor?
Oh no, I also bought one of those a while ago.
Okay.
And haven't had the opportunity to use it much because I haven't been put in that position where I'm like working on the road all that much. But like I'm curious.
I'm pretty excited this go around.
I'm curious.
Yeah. And if not, I can leave it in the office when I'm not there, so that'll be good. Just always have around. I picked up a new laptop, so I'm just like slowly building out my stuff for these travel situations and making it more like being at home. But having an actual home is going to be the real difference maker in terms of comfort, and I'm excited to get to that point.
Absolutely. So you're ready though.
Yeah. Kind of.
I mean, I would hope so because you're leaving tomorrow. But
I mean, I haven't packed, but like I'm ready-ish. Like, I just got to put some clothes in a bag. What I've realized now, this is my 4th trip down there. I'll just buy whatever I need. Like it's not worth like stressing over. I'll even like clothing and stuff. I can get anything I need there. And in fact, my favorite clothing store.
It's like they're a whole country,
Yeah, my favorite clothing store. It's pretty expensive, honestly, in the States. But when you're there, I benefit from a nice exchange rate, and it turns out it's much, much cheaper for me to buy Lululemon clothing in New Zealand than it is in the US.
Yeah.
And so actually I'm pretty incentivized to not bring a lot of stuff with me, and I just do a lot of shopping while I'm there. Even like sneakers, like I got a nice pair of Forces last time I was down there, and it works out well at the exchange rate where it comes out a little bit in my favor. So I'm all for shopping down there.
That's tight. I'm familiar with that store from folks that I dated, but I would never like splurge on myself because it's
you should.
I've never spent more than $100 on an item of clothing for me that wasn't like a suit,
Once you have done it, it's very hard to go back. And not like I'm not a brand person. Like I don't give a shit to display a brand on my clothing. That's not important to me.
No, me either.
What I do care about
shirts to life
is comfortable shit. And their shit is the most comfortable by just an order of magnitude. So comfortable. Like they use really nice fabrics and have really good technology in terms of like, when you're doing things like workout clothing, sweat control and things like that. And even like smell proofing their stuff. They're really good. Like they just use premium shit.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. It's really good. It's worth it.
So what I was getting at is like I've never spent that money, but Josh Cho bought me a pair of Lululemon sweatpants because he had gotten some and was just
There you
like, this
go.
is the greatest stuff of all time.
Yep.
So he bought them for me, and like I'm a fan of like comfy pants, you know, like what do you think I wear all day? I'm not wearing jeans right now, I'll tell you that
Yep.
much. But he got me a pair of those, and it's just like, yeah, the absolutely comfiest pair of pants I own. Not close.
Yep. I actually legitimately have a hard time wearing other clothing. I'm like, this is just not comfortable. I don't want to wear it.
I'm not there yet, but I don't know, maybe someday. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just like it's not that much better to me to necessarily justify the price, but I'm sure if I looked at the math of like, you know, how long does this thing last and like how comfy it is, like price wise, it is probably just much better if you have the cash up front versus like, oh, I need something now and like don't have a lot to spend.
I also think they replace everything. It's very much in the Boots theory of economics.
Okay,
I
well,
think we've talked about Boots theory on the podcast before.
I ain't doing that though, because like returning something to sender is way too much for me. I'm just never gonna do that.
I was very smart and married a lovely woman who is extremely comfortable returning things. Like it's like her forte. She just loves returning things.
You are incredibly blessed. Anyway, let's talk about Boots.
So the Boots theory of economics is based on it comes from a book by Terry Pratchett, who I quite enjoy. And it just basically is telling the story of the poor person who has to purchase a pair of boots, and they buy cheaper boots and they fall apart, and then they have to go buy another pair of boots. Whereas someone who has the money to spend up front gets the nice pair of boots. They last longer. They keep your feet dry as opposed to the other boots, which are constantly in disrepair. They have the ability to be repaired because they are, made with traditional cobbling techniques. And the Boots theory of economics applies to basically everything in the world. And it's one of the most grossly unfair things about,
no, it's just a pure representation of like privilege too, where it's like
absolutely it's everything. It manifests in absolutely everything. Where if you can spend the money up front, you actually save money in the long run. And it's offensive and crazy that that's the way it works, but it is true, and it manifests over and over and over.
Well, you're talking about like the cheap boots being like broken down or whatever, and that means that this other person is probably going to get sick and through hospital bills that they can't afford, which is going to put them out of work, which they can't afford, which is going to put them further into debt, which is going to further make it so that they are never able to save up to, buy a house or buy nice boots.
Get even that first pair of boots. Yeah. It snowballs on you. And like the first 32 years of my life were that snowball. Like I just lived in that snowball all the time, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And it's wild how once you escape it, it becomes self-perpetuating. It's just grossly unfair in every single conceivable way.
Yep.
Who knew?
Terry Pratchett, apparently.
He did. Very, very, very smart man. Beautiful writer.
I think I don't give him. I heard.
Yeah, I think I don't give him enough credit when I am laying out like my, favorite authors and favorite just content creators in general. It feels weird to call Terry Pratchett a content creator, but just someone who puts good things into the universe. I think a very underrated human by me. Not most people. He's very highly regarded.
Hell yeah. Well, what else, man? Where do we blow it anywhere else? Is there anything else you want to talk about in that regard?
Wish we had the opportunity to prepare for a pro tour together, which is not something that ever came up.
Yeah, it's true.
That's unfortunate. But
you just never qualified during the span of the podcast.
No qualification whatsoever. Turns out I'm pretty mediocre at Magic, but
I strongly disagree with that. You just literally didn't play in that many tournaments. Like you did a lot of commentary. We splashed around in some team events. But I don't know, man. Like even when I was like going to PTQs and stuff, like you weren't going with.
That is fair.
I don't even think we road trip together, really.
We mostly meet in places. Like when we lived in Seattle, we didn't really go anywhere that I recall. right? No road trips.
No,
We flew to LA together.
yeah, but I don't think we sat next to each other. Like we were on the same flight a decent amount of times.
Yeah.
But it was like you would get upgraded or something, or I would get upgraded. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think you were more often upgraded than me at that stage in our careers.
I was flying a lot. They liked me.
Yeah. I got upgraded on my flight to New Zealand tomorrow for the first time.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's really big. I didn't get full business. I got premium economy, but
that's fine. Still better.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with like these international flights. Premium economy is like first class on a domestic flight,
right?
And then the business one is like the bed,
right?
The like full lounging thing.
Yeah,
so,
that's the dream for me.
Yeah, I hope with all these flights I'm taking, I eventually get to that point where I get that upgrade, but we're not there yet.
I know that you like can't sleep on flights, right?
I couldn't, but it turns out if you do anything enough, you just kind of get to the point where you're like, okay. And I also just bring sleeping pills with me and take too many of them, and then try and teleport from one continent to another.
I don't know what it is. I've tried like sleeping pills and like melatonin a few times, and it just makes me like groggy and unhappy.
Yeah, that's tough.
And
I definitely feel it the next day.
No, it's like it makes me very it puts me like out of it, but not enough to fall asleep. Like I would have been better off on my own in a lot of instances. And the first time I did something like that was on an international flight, and I was just like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I was just suffering for like 8 hours.
I bet a lot of this has to do with nicotine.
I wasn't smoking then.
Okay.
But I believe you.
Yeah, now it would.
Yeah, probably.
You get gum or something.
Maybe. I don't know. I will say that Xanax, I don't know. I think they were like pretty small dose, but like I took a Xanax once, or it was like a half a Xanax even, and it just like knocked me out for 8 hours. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I wish that I could just take one of those every night. Dude, this weekend in Baltimore, I'm like talking to people, and it's one of those things where I'm telling the truth, and I think that people feel like I'm embellishing or just like straight up lying or whatever, you know? So I slept from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Thursday. And then I stayed up, and I was going to nap in the morning and then leave kind of like midday Friday morning to get up there, to drive up there. And it was 8 a.m. I laid down. I tried to sleep. I couldn't sleep. So I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to leave now. So I drive up there, and then, you know, people start coming in or whatever. And basically just trying to explain myself, like where I'm kind of at, because they're like, oh, do you want to grab dinner or whatever? And it's like 5 p.m. and I'm just like, I feel like I'm gonna have to nap soon. And they're like, why? And it's like, because I've been up for like 16 hours or whatever. And then I was like loaning a card to someone, or like they needed a card, I had it, and was just like, look, I have all intentions of like giving this to you, but I cannot guarantee that I will be awake at the time when your tournament starts, which was like 9 a.m. And I'm just like trying to explain like my situation, and they're just like, you can just say that you don't want to give me the card or whatever. It's like, motherfucker, that's not like, I'm literally just telling you the situation. And then anyway, I like, you know, get back, stay up for a while, sleep, like, you know, 1 to 4 a.m. or something. And then obviously I'm awake at 9 a.m. to like go and hand them the card. And it's like, yeah, I've been up for 5 hours. Like, I'm not lying to you. This is my life. I just sleep for like 3 hours twice a day. Like that is what I do. I'm like, no, it is not good. I wish I could just sleep for 8 hours at a time, but I just literally.
Yeah, that was good. That was going to be my follow-up question, is that, are you happy with that mode
of
sleeping? Because there are some people who like purposefully like do that mode of sleep, polyphasic sleep.
Dude, I'm happy for like 30 minutes after I wake up.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like fresh off a REM cycle or whatever, and I feel great. And then it's just like, oh wait, your body is still tired.
Try Ambien before?
Not actual Ambien, no.
Yeah, you should try it.
I will say that like NyQuil and melatonin is
Ambien is
it's
completely different.
yeah, it's not strong enough.
Yeah.
I believe that Ambien is strong enough.
You will go to sleep if you take Ambien. You don't have much agency in that decision. You will just go to sleep, and you can kind of like skirt the edges of it, and you can like be awake, disassociated from reality potentially, or you could just like. I mean, I used to share rooms with someone who took Ambien a lot of the time, and they would just like wake up and do weird shit in the middle of the night, and I'd be like, "What were you doing last night?" And like, I have no idea. I was asleep.
Yeah.
No, you weren't. You were up and having a conversation with me the entire time. But if you want to go to sleep, it'll definitely get the job done.
I don't really I don't really want to do that because I don't know what it is possible for like your body to do, and like
I will say when I took it, I just went to sleep. That was it.
As far as
at least as far as I know, as far as
no one
was
wanted to tell you
reported
the
to me.
embarrassing shit that you were doing.
Yeah, as far as reported to me, I just went to sleep.
But like I have
I'm not sure I understand.
Brian,
watch, come on.
Brian, put the watch away.
Doesn't understand.
Yeah, there you go. I hear the Velcro. That should have happened the first time, man.
Throwing it across the room.
All right.
Trying to get that airtime before it gets cut off forever.
Get your steps in, watch. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I have 3 small animals, 3 lovely, adorable, well, 2.5 adorable cats, and then Nora, who is great, and I love her, but she does not help me sleep. I will put it that way.
Yeah.
But
that
like
makes sense.
I can't do sleepwalking when I'm supposed to be the caretaker of these small animals. Like good God, what if I woke up and like something had happened to one of them?
That's a lot of responsibility.
Do you know the magic lore in regards to Ambien?
I don't think so. Something about you saying that tickled something in the back of my brain, but I can't answer the question.
Back in the day, I don't know why, probably because it was just like easier to get or whatever, and like these were people who like smoked weed back when it was like edgy or whatever too. So like they were like doing some drugs, but apparently the thing to do with Ambien is to like take it and then just force yourself to stay up.
Yeah.
And then it provides you with like a high or whatever. So I don't know. Like the Ambien was just a thing that I think it was a small group of people, but it was a notable group of people back in the day would do. So
playing the Ambien game.
Dude, back then it was just like, all right, I know that these druggy dudes like Ambien. I've heard of it. I have no idea what it is. I just assume it is a drug. And then, I find out years later it's just like a sleep aid or something. Just like, how the hell?
Yeah. People do a lot of things to get high. Always find a way.
Yeah. So Ambien is, it has deep and rooted culture in Magic's history.
As does many horrible things. So add it to the list.
Yeah. What else, man? What else do you want to talk about on your last show?
I don't know. That covers a lot of what I don't have anything in particular to say. I one of the things about having done 300 plus episodes of a podcast is that
you said a lot of shit.
You've heard it all at this point. Like if you listen to all those podcasts, you know more about me. We have had more conversations than I've had with my wife probably over that same period of time. That's not because I don't love her deeply. I'm just like not a person who talks all that much. I know that's hard to understand when I talk for a living.
That doesn't make any sense.
I understand. I know it doesn't make sense, but I'm actually a pretty quiet person and generally more comfortable being quiet. And that's probably shocking news to some who only hear this podcast, but it's true. And you all know everything there is to know about me at this point. I don't have many secrets left. There's no like last minute divulgences I want to give you. It's just I am thankful for all the people who enjoyed my company, and I enjoyed yours as well. It was a cool thing to be a part of, and I'll always remember it fondly. And I always seize it, like when I'm thinking about like where my life has gone and the opportunities I've had. I always think about the fact that I got to sign autographs for people. That's so weird. It's like for whatever reason that stands out as the strangest thing that has come
It
of all
is
of this stuff.
it is pretty weird.
It's so weird. It never stops being weird. I mean, I'm very happy to do it. Like I'm very grateful that people ask me to do it. And this isn't me being like, oh, you shouldn't do that. No, absolutely do it. I'm very, very happy for it. It's just strange. It's not something I ever thought I would be doing. And it's one of the cooler parts of having done all this.
Yeah, oddly, I don't know exactly when this happened or whatever, but it stopped being weird for me. It's just like, yeah, it's a thing that I do or whatever. But when you stop and actually think about it, it's just like, yeah, that is weird. I can't, certainly, you know, as a kid or even like a young adult or whatever, it's just like I can't imagine ever doing that. It is bizarre.
I always feel guilty. I always feel like I'm defacing the card that I'm writing on, or
I did it first.
It's just strange. Also, like, especially in the Magic context, I didn't create these things. Like, I just said words about them. That's what makes it very strange to like sign them. Like, I get it seems like something that should happen more in the flesh and blood space, where like I created a card and people go, oh, I want the guy who created the card to sign it. That makes some sense to me. When I'm defacing Magic cards, it's very, very odd to me.
Dude, I think that you and I have talked about this, but maybe I've not talked about this publicly, maybe because it's not a thing that I think that people actually care about or whatever. But like Wizards, I think, was in a unique position, and like maybe still is, to promote its designers and devs a lot better. And especially as like Magic opens up more and, you know, you get more people involved in the various niche communities within Magic, just like the I don't know, like Vorthos aspect of things, and the people who care about like the story or just like the design of cards and stuff. It's just like, how are you not promoting your people like rock stars, you know? Or like, how are you not more closely attributing and associating things with like people's work? And I realize that, you know, many instances it's a collaborative team effort, right? But there are some things where I think like Greenbelt Rampager is a card that one of my former roommates signed because he was just like, yeah, I don't know, came up with the design and just like went to print, you know? And there are things like that happen. But in so many instances, it's just like you maybe know some of the people, like obviously Rosewater is very front facing, but not a lot of the other people are. And I don't know, when you're like, oh, you know, why don't people want me, the creator of the card, to sign it? It's like, y'all don't do a good job promoting it, you know? And it's not just you, certainly it is just like the industry as a whole, honestly.
Yeah, I think the entity you're talking about has to take it upon themselves to create that rockstarness, like the designer you're speaking of. It's not. I actually don't think it's something the company can do. I think it would actually come off manufactured and forced if the company tried to do it.
Well, they can
support it.
Yeah, I was thinking like, you know, support, supplement, something like that. But
yeah,
there's just like nothing in place to do that. But like there are, I don't know, you know, like random videos on the Magic channel talking about like the creation of sets or whatever, and it's like you could certainly plug a lot of that stuff there. If someone has like something cool that they want to talk about, like you could actually solicit people to do guest spots on stuff like that. And I realize a lot of the people are probably just like, I want to be nameless, faceless, behind
anonymous
the scenes or
yeah,
whatever.
good choice.
So
good
I
choice.
get that, but there are absolutely like some people that would sign up for it. You know, even if it's just like in written word, like they get to talk about the thing that they created and why and how and whatever.
I think you were right that not that many people care. And I think that is in terms of both like whether this superstar creation mechanism should exist, and in terms of they just want to play with the cards and they don't really like have a lot of interest in where they came from and the thought process behind designing them. And it's just not something that the people it appeals really, really hard. Like people are really passionate about design, both in terms of understanding it, in terms of learning, in terms of, doing their own theoretical work. And that very, very small micro community is intense about what they love. And they would certainly appreciate it a lot. But I do think it is a very small percentage of the player population that cares about that stuff. I basically have like an open door policy when it comes to Flesh and Blood stuff. I will talk with any Flesh and Blood content creator at any time that wants to talk about design. I'm happy to do so.
I've noticed that.
And I do a lot of stuff, but honestly, there's a lot of times when I see a show where people are just like, let's speculate on what the designers were doing here. And I'm like, well, you could have just asked me to come on the show. I would have told you. Like, we don't have to speculate. You could just come talk to me.
True, but less fun maybe in some instances,
Maybe. I always wanted to like do things differently and be more available and be more open and talk about the stuff. And I think the truth is a lot of people just don't care. They just want the cards, which is fine. That's a totally fine way to engage.
See, it's a chicken or egg situation to me, though.
Maybe.
Because people don't care because no one is promoting any of this stuff. Like, no one is telling you specific stories of, like, how cards came to be, yet there are, whenever there's, like, a random tweet, like, once every 6 months to a year or whatever.
People like it.
Like, yeah, it gets a lot of traction. Because
I guess the issue is if you do a random tweet once a year, you get the good stories. A lot of times the story is not that interesting. It's just like, yeah, I made this card. We put it in a deck, turned out to be pretty good, and we printed it. Like, that's a huge percentage of the stories that are going to be told about these things.
I mean, yeah, but there's also a lot of stuff that you can do with that. It's just like maybe getting out in front of it and letting it be known that it was like the thing that you did, and then whenever it does well, you just kind of like tweet about it or whatever, because it's like, I know that, again, not all developers or whatever, but like if someone sees a card that they created doing well and serving its intended purpose or whatever, like that feels good. Like it's like watching your child succeed at something. And so I know that they care. But it's just like you feel kind of weird tweeting about it because that's not the culture. That's not what we're doing, at least yet. So
yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting discussion. Let me ask you this: let's go outside the card gaming space.
Yeah,
let's go to whatever gacha game you're presently enjoying. Like, do you want that level of engagement from the developers in that space? Do you want to hear the stories about how?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So playing / played, various Hoyoverse things, right? And occasionally they come out with some behind the scenes videos, or even if it's just like a 10-minute segment in a larger thing that they're producing or whatever about like an upcoming patch or something. It's like, it is fascinating to me to see like how they came up with like character designs or like what they pulled from to, it is very lore based in a lot of instances too with the stuff that they do. Cause it's like, oh, like this region is based on like this region in real life. And like, these are the various things we drew from, like, this is why this character is stylized this way, etc. Just like that stuff is interesting to me. And I don't even consider myself a person who's like particularly interested in that stuff.
Yeah, and I love that shit too, but how much of that is based on like who we are and our backgrounds and the things we've worked on?
Maybe, but the point is that like we exist,
Yeah.
And we're not even the target audience necessarily. So
for sure.
It doesn't have to gain a ton of traction, but like people like Mark Rosewater, Ben Brode, obviously they have very specific personalities for that type of thing. Whereas, love Eric Lauer to death, but like he doesn't really have the personality for it, or he doesn't want to engage with it. I think his personality is actually well suited for it, actually. But not everyone wants to sign up for that role, but like when someone does step into that role, it is generally received very positively by the community.
Yeah.
Because like they want like the insider view, and like Wizards was basically like the first company to do that sort of thing when I think a lot of other companies felt like, oh, we're giving away our secrets for free. Like,
That's interesting.
why
Do
would
you
we
think
that?
they were early on adapters of that?
Yeah.
I had never really considered that before, but as you say that, and I think back at the history and like how,
Who else was doing it?
yeah, I have no answers for you. I mean, like maybe MMOs to some extent, but I wasn't a huge MMO player in like the early days of MMOs, so I don't know what like the Ultima Onlines and Everfest, is it Everfest, EverQuest?
EverQuest.
Yeah, our set's Everfest. Okay. EverQuest.
Oh, that's hilarious to me. All right.
What else is out there?
You're just like, I can only think about fab things. That is how
It's so
interested I am.
hard to think about anything else. It's so hard.
I know.
My brain is just a fab mush at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't engaged enough with those communities to know exactly how they were doing things.
I don't.
That's about the time where Wizards sort of like opened the gates a little bit and was telling more stories.
Yeah. No, it was when Rosewater got there, and he's just like, I want to, write about this stuff. It's interesting, and
yeah.
I don't know that they were the first or whatever, and I'm sure that other game companies have done, smaller portions of it or whatever, but like to the extent that they're willing to let people in behind the scenes and like just answer generalized questions and stuff like that, like it is very different, and you see that a little bit more with other companies now, not even necessarily to the same degree that Wizards does it,
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think that is very cool, and I think that is very silly that, like, I don't know, Eric Lauer is not a more well-known and respected figure, whether or not he wants to be. It's just like, dude has done so much and deserves like whatever credit he gets. So it seems like doing him a disservice. But yeah, I fully recognize that maybe he just doesn't even want that. Maybe he likes it better this way. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems peaceful, honestly.
More peaceful at least. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like going to work and like talking to that dude about Magic. Like he loves talking about that stuff, right? And maybe it was just like a small group of coworkers, like people who maybe quote unquote get it or whatever. Yeah, I don't know exactly what the deal is. It's one of those weird things where it's like, I never really thought to ask him, But
yeah, no, it's an interesting question. Excuse me.
But regardless, if y'all wanted to do that a little bit more and maybe solidify those connections between like the people who make the cards and the cards themselves. Obviously, not every single card is made individually by one person or whatever, but there are certainly instances where that does happen, and
yep.
It's cool to highlight that stuff and point it out. And obviously, you run the risk of like it blowing up when it's just like Hogak or something. It's like, hey, look at this cool thing I made, and they're just like, we hate you. Fire this dude.
Nah, I don't. It's funny. I have zero fears of making Hogak. I just like accept it as an inevitability and know it's going to happen. What scares me way more is making something boring. Like I find that way scarier than making a card that just like sort of messes up the game a little bit. Because if you don't occasionally mess up the game, you probably are playing things too safe. And it's always a thin line to walk, but you have to take risks. And that Hogaks don't scare me, but just boring, miserable sets scare the shit out of me. So
yeah, I agree with all that. And like, obviously we're critical of Wizards and fire design or whatever, but like, I hope it did come across that it's like these sets are exciting, like that is definitely a good thing versus them being Mercadian masks or whatever. And it was just like this stuff is exciting, but this stuff doesn't have to be a bunch of free cards or whatever, like you can make them exciting in different ways instead of making like fires and Omnath and stuff.
Yep, I think very true. Speaking of cards that have garnered some interest and possibly concern, the One Ring seems like it's doing some work over in Modern, not only in terms of selling a bunch of packs, which I'm sure it is doing, No one of One Ring has turned up as of yet, much to everyone's surprise. But the just regular the One Rings are turning up absolutely everywhere, it looks like. And it's funny. I remember seeing that card and thinking it could be good enough and it could matter. It's really hard to contextualize protection from everything until you see it.
Yeah. No, I mean, we were talking about like, oh, is there a way to like recur this or bounce it or whatever? But yeah, like you just don't even necessarily need to do that.
No, you just take the time walk, like the tutorable time walk with your card. It's just like a huge position to be in. It seems like it's going to actually be pretty fundamental to the way Modern works. I think this card has a lot of potential. I'm not one who thinks it needs, action. That seems absolutely ridiculous to me, but it does seem very strong, and I think an important card from the set. And I think that's probably good. It feels like if a card is supposed to matter from the set, it is supposed to be the One Ring. So I guess things have kind of worked out in the correct fashion. It's going to be weird seeing the One Ring across a lot of Modern matchups, but is what it is.
Well, the name is generic enough where you don't even have to
engage
think
with
about it.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, sure.
Different if it were Gandalf, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be different. I think they assigned the points to the right place.
Yeah, it is interesting. I definitely didn't want to talk about Lord of the Rings, but this is one of those instances where it's like, oh yeah, you kind of have to because it is such a big part of it or whatever. And I don't know. It's if I were, I can't stop myself from thinking about like how I would approach it as like a weekly columnist type of person. Like my brain is still trained to think like, okay, what am I writing about this week?
What's the article? Yeah.
And this would spawn probably a few articles, a lot of different decks, a lot of different brews, and we'd be eating good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not getting paid to like actually do the work and try and figure that stuff out. So instead I'm like, yeah, that's what I would write about, but I'm just not going to do any of the research or work necessary to like write the article. So, I'll check back in 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. Let someone else do it.
Or I'll let the other person, give me their thoughts whenever we do our next show.
That seems like a good idea.
Oh man. Okay. So you need to make a promise right here and right now that if you ever have anything you want to talk about, I mean, like literally anything, because obviously we just bullshitted through this entire show and I thought it was rad, that you tell me, because I will be right there. I will turn my mic on. I got my good mic set back up again. Dude, I'm ready to rumble. I got nothing but time. My sleep schedule is shit. So anytime you want to talk, anytime you want to record, you let me know.
I will do that. And I am honestly looking a bit forward to getting to untether from Magic a little bit. I know you'll have that covered over on the main show, so we could talk about some other shit. Like I still want to have a long, in-depth conversation about why the new Zelda game sucks. And that's one that I'm going to make everyone listen to. And I know that I've converted you to a Zelda hater, which I'm very proud of. You were a defender of Breath of the Wild.
You didn't do that. I played it. I was just like, I hate this so much. I just hate it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you exactly why. I understand why, but
as do I. And hate's a strong word. I think it is a solid game.
It was, I turned it off and that was it. And then my life moved on, I didn't really think about it except for the times when you bring it up or someone asks my opinion and I'll tell them.
I did like I don't even know, 8 to 10 hours probably is about what I put into it. And then there are so many freaking other incredible games coming out, like just the absolute typhoon of incredible games that I'm not going to waste my time with a game that does not make me happy. And Tears of the Kingdom does not make me happy. But
dude, it was like round 2 of a league, man. I didn't even have to play 2 hours or 8 hours to know that
I believe it.
I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that. I would love to talk about the other video games that have been occupying my mind. I think there's some great games out now. I would love to talk about anime when the new season starts. I think that would be fun. Be cool to come on and do maybe some music talk, all things that would be really fun to talk about without the bonds of Magic. But I also would love to check in on Magic from time to time. I would love to do some of the more oddball discussion type stuff. I mentioned that year in review show, which was a weird ass show that we did kind of on a whim at the end of last year, where we just looked at every product. That was actually a lot of fun to me, and I wouldn't mind doing that at the end of the year. So I will stay very open
Awesome.
and willing to talk about various things.
Yeah, I'm down.
Obviously, this is a huge part of my life, and the most important thing to me is just like neither one of us are great about just like maintaining connections, making time to speak to other people when obviously you are one of my favorite people in the world. The thought of not having an excuse to have a conversation with you every week is actually the scariest part about moving on. That is the thing that makes me most uncomfortable. I will be fine in terms of my engagement with Magic, and I will not miss being like a Magic Twitter person. All that stuff is good. I just will miss the conversations with you. So I do want to make sure we go out of our way to do that and find excuses. And I also hope I can get to a place where I can like re-engage with Magic on healthier terms. Like obviously there's a lot of, I don't know if hurt feelings is quite the right word, but like missed opportunities, sadness, maybe a little bitterness with my relationship with Magic right now, where I don't really like the way things turned out. And, I generally enjoy being a positive person. I hope I can get to a place where my relationship with Magic is positive again, where there are events I just want to go to for the sake of playing Magic. That would be great. I have no desire to extricate Magic from my life, to never participate again. That's not what this is about. It's just about the realities of where my time is spent and what I want for this podcast audience.
So seeing as how, we talked a little bit about regrets and the things that we were never able to do. If there is ever a period where you are going to a tournament, and I mean just, like if you're going to like an IQ or some shit, like just some tiny local thing on a whim or whatever, let me know.
We'll do.
And
we'll do that.
I'll try and make it so like we can hang out for like 3 days or something, go to like Dave and Buster's, like cross some shit off the bucket list.
Play some ping pong. That all sounds very good to me.
I don't know that I've ever played like a full game of ping pong.
Really?
So I'm just going to be an absolute punching bag for you.
I'm really, really good.
I believe you.
Sorry.
But I'll indulge you.
Might be a bit of a drubbing.
I'll indulge you.
Good.
So yeah, definitely let me know about any of that sort of stuff. You're not like selling your collection or anything, are you?
So I considered
seems like a lot of
work.
Like I
said, I'm it is a lot of work. Like I said, I'm looking at getting a second house in New Zealand. I may need some capital for that. I considered maybe looking at my non-reserve list stuff and just seeing if there's a way I can move it all very quickly, because honestly, I not only have a bunch of non-reserve list stuff, but I have probably the most expensive available version of that stuff. So if I wanted to sell it, come back, re-engage, buy like the lower end version of it in the future when I don't need the liquid capital, I think that's entirely fine and actually a pretty reasonable financial decision, which is how I make most of these determinations. So I'm looking at that, but I think the reality is that it'll just prove to be more of a hassle than it's worth, and I probably won't do it.
You just need to find a third party who's willing to do it all for you for like 10%.
It's so hard for me to take the L on that. Like I know I should do it, and I know that is like a valuable service they are providing, but there's just like this innate you grew up poor voice in my head being like,
I know,
don't be lazy, get that 10%, don't give it to someone else. And I have to get over that. But you're right. It is the correct way to do it. And also I have many friends who are capable of doing that. So there's no reason for me not to use them.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, you don't have time to do this. You don't have time to do that either would be my argument. Yep. So
that is the truth.
Shit, man. Anything else? What else you got?
No. That's it.
Nothing.
Thank you. Just thank you to you. Thank you to everyone. My life would be very different without the opportunities you provided me. I am I mean, I mention it in conversation. It feels like almost daily that I owe everything about where I have gotten to your belief in me as someone who nobody knew, just coming on a podcast and talking about this thing that I love so much, TCGs and Magic and gaming. And without your belief in me, I don't think any of that is possible. So thank you. And then that extends to all the people who actually showed up and listened, because you could have done it and then everyone could have been like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm giving this guy my time every week. But people came and they listened.
Well,
and I'm so thankful for that.
that's the thing, man. You don't owe me shit because this is all stuff that you did yourself. I just happen to be in a position to, be a talent scout effectively, and I don't know.
But it's different when you put your own shit on the line, right? You already had this brand. You already had something that was successful, that was working. It's one thing if you go and introduce me to someone else.
Bro,
it's like,
bro, you were not a risk. Like, that's the thing, is I knew it wasn't a risk.
Well, you're a smart guy.
I put absolutely nothing on the line. Yes, I am. In some regards, I am. I'm very, very not smart in a lot of other aspects. But in terms of talent for being able to create good Magic content, I feel like the vast majority of the people that I vouched for have worked out.
Yep.
And also
that's why I'm looking forward to what's next, man. I get to just listen to the podcast. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and then it's watch the next person come on and just like shit the bed or whatever. Not that they're going to. I know they're listening.
They're not going to shit.
They're not going to. I have the utmost faith in them. It's just, it is another instance of that where I don't think I'm risking anything in this regard.
Yep.
I am very thankful that you said yes, that this person said yes, and I didn't have to go to the next person on the list, because
always good to get your first choice.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It was easy to me. Like I made a list of people, and my list started with like people that other people would expect, and then I was like, why am I doing this? It's like that is not the show that I want to be a part of. And you and I had not worked together closely, like many times or whatever, but I'd seen enough. And then that's all. Dude, it was round 2 of a league, like I learned enough.
Yep, you're ready to pack it in.
And I had made my decision, and it was a damn good one,
Well, I am thankful you made that decision. Been a incredible 300 plus episode run. So congrats to you for being part of it. I'll take some congrats for myself. I do think we did something special, and
you should.
I think we left Magic in a better place than we found it in terms of what people expect from content creators. I think I
fucking hope so, man.
The level of one thing that I hope there's a really lasting legacy of this podcast is the level of genuineness that we approached everything with, what we tried to sell you, how we tried to sell it to you, the things we didn't try and sell you along the way. I think all of that, I want you to hold other content creators to the same standards that we held ourselves to. I think you are owed that as someone engaging in the space. And, when people kind of show you who they are, and there's a lot of warning signs for it, believe those warning signs. like understand, you know who's out to make a buck off you, know who's out to really provide something for you. And I hope we helped you with that process.
Yeah, I wish people would think about that stuff more. And I know that it kind of defeats the purpose if I tell people to do that or whatever,
Yeah.
It's like, think about how genuine we are. It's like, yeah, okay, I should probably just not say anything. But then,
No, it is important. I think we left a lot of money on the table and did so consciously. And a lot of that was in furtherance of just being genuine. And I hope that always came through. And I just think that's what people deserve. And if they're not getting that, they should ask themselves why they're not getting that.
Yeah. But no, man, it's part of it. It's part of the Bryan G package, It is what I knew I was signing myself up for. Was it needed to be a person that I could work alongside with. Like this is very much a 50-50 effort, and I don't know, for whatever good you think that this podcast did or whatever we accomplished, like you're a big part of that. So, thank you also. And I don't know, I am happy that I was in a place where I could provide a platform, but I'm very happy that there were like suitable candidates. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I don't know. It is certainly cool how it worked out too, where it's like we didn't know each other super well before that. I think there was, like a mutual respect and like we liked each other or whatever. But this has been awesome. I never, literally 0 times have I been like, God, I have to interact with Bryan today.
Yeah.
0 times.
We are both the type of person who, if we feel that way about you, we probably stop interacting with you.
Yeah.
So it works out very well that we're just, naturally able to coexist. And there aren't many people I could spend this much time with on the face of the earth. So it's very fortunate that I found another one just by happenstance and random chance.
I don't know how many other people in my position come up with you as the person, but it's just like this is one thing I got absolutely right. And I believe on the first cast I said something to the effect of like, you don't know this person, but like trust me, this is the right person or whatever. And I don't know, this is like the easiest but also like maybe biggest cold shot I have. So but that's also
where you get to throw up the hand and
but
do the fade away motion.
But again, it's all because you're you, though. It's like it's not that hard for me to be like, oh yeah, Bryan would be really good at this.
I don't know. There's a lot of people who have passed me up for other things. So I think there's some element of you can always make a mistake, or you can I don't know, always get the wrong impression. But you were good enough to see through that. So I am thankful. I am ready to deliver what I think will probably be my final game. I will come back, but I don't think I'll do this again. So I think I really want to put my whole heart into it and say one final time, that's game.
Good luck.